All right, what's up, guys? Back at the Fifth Street Gym with my guy here, Chris Sarro, Bare Knuckle FC fighter. Thanks, man. I appreciate you hopping on today.
Absolutely. Been excited for this. Been waiting.
Yeah. No, good to finally get you on. We were just talking a little bit before the camera started rolling, which I think is really cool for the people to know about you, is how talented of an artist you are. If they don't know already, maybe some people in Maine already know. In New England, they already know some of the things you've. Yeah, but you're going to be doing a mural outside the gym here, and you got some ink on the body. You got some new ink. I was thinking, do you come up with the designs and new ink on the side of the head? I don't know.
Yeah,
Did you draw that too, or?
It's been something I've been wanting for years, long time, because it speaks to my inner beasts. Everyone always calls me a different animal. I get gorilla a lot. And or a grizzly bear, depending on the time of day and my beard.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna be covering my body in fucking animals. Can I swear?
Yeah.
Okay. I just slip up sometimes, but yeah, I love it, man. I love it. So the deal with the mural, we're hoping, fingers crossed, that we get the approval. We already got the approval of the gym, but we got to wait on the landlord. But it should be a go. Because why not? And if it is a go, it's going to be my life's piece. I'm very excited because this is history.
Yeah. No, I was going to ask you about that. Not only doing the mural, how cool is that, but also the history of this gym, and then being a fighter. You got to think about that sometimes when you walk in here. Because even when I'm working out, sometimes I think, man, this is pretty cool. This is where
most nostalgic gyms.
Muhammad Ali used to be. Yeah.
Yeah, man. If you look at gyms, so when it comes to boxing gyms, part of what got me I really wanted to be a boxer was the nostalgic aspect. I remember being a kid in the Boston airport. We're going to Aruba. I was 11, little chubby kid from Maine, and I see this dude. He was old, retired, like a DeMarco kind of, but just clean cut, talent guy. My dad goes, "That guy's a boxer right there." You could just tell the nose and everything. It was this nostalgic feel to it that I always I love when it comes to boxing, old school. So when it came to boxing gyms, I hated walking into new, shiny, smelling MMA gyms. I like old, cat piss, rotten, rusty. Ring 1, I boxed for Jad Dawson's gym out of New Haven, Connecticut, and that's a rough hole in the wall in the ghetto gym, and I loved it. Gleason's gym, Gleason's out of New York, I fought for them, and same thing, nostalgic, the chains, you hear the chains going all day in the old rusty bags, and then I walked in here, and I was perfect. Old, rusty, plaster falling off the walls, literally. But it's to be able to leave my mark. Not only have I left plenty of blood in that ring, but to be able to leave my mark on the building, the place where Ali made his original run. It's epic.
Yeah, super cool. Well, let's take it back maybe to the beginnings in Maine. Curious from the New England standpoint, I'm from New England. I'm from outside of Boston as well. We have some of the best last 20 years of sports, professional sports history with the Pats and Celtics and Red Sox and all that.
Yep.
But I'm sure you're a fan of all those guys. But when did fighting come into play? As a kid, were you a fan of fighting in general? Was it later on?
Yeah. So I come from a family of fighters. Now, it's not that everyone in my family likes to throw down, but if you look at our family tree, both my grandfathers were boxers. My mom's dad was a Golden Glove boxer, and then on my father's side, his grandfather was a Golden Glove boxer. My uncles were boxers. My dad's a fighter. My dad's got no eyebrow hair, and he's got thicker eyebrows than me. Talent's all scars. He's just an old bad dude, and so it's in my blood to just want to fight. But my family came from Connecticut, and they come to Maine, and they start all over, and they raise a family up in the country in the sticks of Maine, and we have no fighting up there. There's no real circuit up there. There's a New England boxing scene, and the last people to really be a part of it are people from Maine, especially northern Maine, up by the border. I'm an hour. Where I grew up is an hour from the Canadian border, and so but I always, since like 7 years old, used to like sleep over at my Nana's house across the street from my family's house. I'd go over to my grandmother's, and I'd watch Friday night fights on ESPN, and she'd tell me these stories, like point at pictures of my grandfathers, and tell me how they were Golden Glove boxers. And I thought, you get these Golden Gloves. I was my fighter's name is Chris Golden Gloves.
Yeah,
had nothing to do with it because I won the Golden Gloves. That was cool. That was a big part of my goals, my bucket list. But it was because I come from a line of Golden Gloves on both sides. So to me, genetically, I was designed to fight. But I grew up in a place where there was no fighting. And so the second I was of age, I started getting in my car and driving my ass to Boston and New York and Connecticut and these gyms and putting myself in deep water because they throw you into the wolves when you do that. When you show up, hi, I'm from out of town, big kid, and they want to test you. So I've been tested in some of the toughest gyms in New England, and I made myself an amateur boxer. You know, I started under Marcus Davis, UFC welterweight, ranked 8th in the world at one point in the UFC. Team Irish, and I wanted to be a boxer, but I was like, well, I'll take this MMA training because they're teaching boxing too, and the guy was a former 17-1 pro boxer, and so I started in an MMA gym, and it spawned into. It took me years though. I mean, I don't want to get into we could be here for a while, but I went down I was just grew up like a criminal around criminals and stuff, and I was in a lot of trouble, but I loved to fight. And because there's no gyms really where I'm from, it was easier to get into trouble than it was to go find a boxing gym. It's part of my goal, bringing that back to that area. And so, fighting was what kept me. Anytime I had a fight lined up, I wasn't getting in trouble because I had a date. I had to eat, sleep, train, and I was not going to lose. So I was not going to skimp. And if I lined up another fight, as like a young adult, join a gym, like, all right, I got another date, I was not in trouble for that amount of time. And if I didn't have a fight, I was in trouble, some serious trouble. So
I think we've heard we've heard a lot of different stories from fighters, like similar to you, how it's given them that discipline and taken them out of trouble. But I'm curious, like when you really started getting into these gyms and sparring guys and getting in fights in the ring, like what about it did you really like? Like, was it actually the contact, like the physical, athletic part of it? Or was it like the feeling afterwards? I know like Mike Tyson even said something along the lines of like when he first was checking out gyms, he saw these guys walking out with black eyes and everything, but they were smiling. And he was like, man, I want to be doing that. Yeah. And it's like, so if you could dive into like the mental side of like why were you happy leaving the gym after getting in fights?
Because I was 18 when I joined Team Irish. And so this is my first ever gym where, people, and this was a tough gym, MMA gym, and tough dudes in here. I was 18, and Marcus Davis was 32 at the time. Garth Crane, who the other pro, ran the gym, head coach, Canadian Olympic alternate. He was 33-year-old. All these guys, Mike Laliberty, Travis Bartlett, high-level pros, were all 33, 34, and I was 18. But I was built like a 33-year-old. So, and they were just, God bless them, but it was a tough time and tough gyms, 2005, around then, where I got thrown into the deep water with these guys. I came into this gym, and I wanted to learn, and so my first night, I told them I want to spar. And I got in there and got to learn where I stand on the spectrum of alpha male. It brought me down. But the thing is I, at the end of the day, when all the light, everyone's gone home and it's just me, myself, and I'm a fighter. And so it would eat at me that these grown-ass men would get this on me or get that on me. So I'd go back I would be like, that ain't going to happen again. I'd go back to that gym. And what made me friggin' driven was like going and get lit up and go home and be like, fuck. And I would go. I'd talk to my dad about it, and I'd be like, "Today's my day. Today, that shit ain't going down." These are against like high-end pros that you can only be so realistic with how much you believe. But what it showed was the days that I showed up and believed in myself, like it ain't gonna happen today. It was a competitive round between me and these high-level guys, or I'd get the better of them.
Yeah,
where they fucking respected me, and I'm a kid. So by 21, I was a head bouncer in a bar, in a serious bar with serious situations, like serious violence, and I was 21 with these adults. But what gave me an edge was I was going to a gym training with these high-level pros that were all 10, 12 years older than me. And it was giving me this edge. I knew that the other 21-year-olds, 25, 28-year-olds, no one was getting this edge. I was like sharpening blades that no one else knew where that sharpening stone. Like I found it in this little gym in Team Irish. And so I knew I just had these weapons, these bombs that I knew the hoops, the fiery hoops I had to jump through, and no one else was jumping through them. So I was like, I'm going to jump through as many of these as I can, get as tough as I can.
So during all this process, was this Golden Gloves?
Nope.
Or this is after Golden Gloves?
This was before Golden Gloves.
Before Golden Gloves,
yep.
Okay.
I trained like...
So bring me into Golden Gloves. Like then you're the bouncer, you're sharpening your knives here, and you're like, all right, now...
And I was training as if I was a high-level professional. I should have been competing, but I was training like 5 days a week.
Okay.
Doing all these sparring, doing all the things the same guys that had fights coming up with.
Yeah.
On the weekends, though, I wasn't going to compete. I was just going to the bar. And I was taking these old dudes, not old dudes, like older, like grown-ass men. I was a kid. And I get these three guys that want to puff up, and it was like, that's good. I'm not condoning this. This is just the kind of person, the kid I was. I was a good kid, but I didn't put up with any bullies or any bullshit to an extent that everyone in my area knew that kid doesn't put up with bullshit. And so what happened was I had slipped from, gotten away from training. I'd gotten fired from the bar for being overly assertive, we'll put it that way. And then had the birth of my son, and one of my closest friend was murdered in a situation that everyone almost lost their lives in, and my son was born the next day, and it was this couple years a turning point where I started going kind of down a bad road. In the grand scheme of things, it wasn't in a good direction. It was pretty rough, and so what happened was, everything came to a head, and I said, I'm getting a fucking fight. I'm going to start as a boxer like I always wanted to do. When I was 18, I joined this MMA gym. I wanted to be a boxer, but they didn't offer boxing. So I started boxing. I made the phone calls and started I was like, all right, what gyms are around me? And they're like, we think there's a boxing gym in Stockton Springs. That was like an hour and a half away from where I lived in Ellsworth. And I called that guy up. He had a Skeet Wyman's Boxing. Shout out Skeet if you're seeing this. The guys had had a hand in some of the most amazing boxers. Demetrius Andre. Skeet played a major role in getting him started and everything in this game. He's a world champ today, and will be for a long time. So Skeet had a gym on the third floor of a chicken barn in Stockton Springs, Maine, that never advertised. You couldn't find it in the phone book. But I sought him out, because I was calling boxers and promoters, and they were like, I think there's a guy, and phone call after phone call, I found Skeet, and he's like, show up at this time. I showed up at this day at this time, and then I got my first official fight, 24 years old, in Windsor, Vermont, after 3 months of joining this boxing gym. Now, these years of stomping, these years of heavy fighting. So amateur boxing, I came into it like it was playland.
Yeah.
No fear. And everyone was like, everyone gets fear before a fight. No, not when you've had people, killed in front of you and serious stuff. Amateur boxing with headgear and the doctor ringside. I was like, this is playland. And I came out like a grown-ass man. I came into the heavyweight scene as a boxer on the New England boxing scene. Throwing bombs, and I know because people would say they never seen people fight like that. I would miss in the air, would swing the guy's body around. I was just running at guys. I learned kind of backwards. I learned from being a brawler, learned how to sharpen and control my shit.
So when you won the Golden Gloves, what did that feel like? You go through all of this adversity, you have these things happen to you in your personal life, and then you accomplish that goal. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it must have been an amazing feeling. And then what's your next thought the next day? You're like, all right, now I'm for real now. I proved that I can win something. That gives you some confidence.
This is what happened. This is the unconventional story of my journey. I won the gloves. I mean, I never dreamt of being a world champion, or I dreamt of just winning my Golden Gloves, because I couldn't think any bigger than that. That was, to me, I'm part of this little family circle, in history, and that was all that mattered to me. It was not this massive grand picture. It was just winning the gloves. Once I won them, it was amazing, but then I was like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
And because I'm still young and fresh and able, and it's like, and I just accomplished this, and then you're left with, now what? And before, I never thought beyond that. And so what happened was, right after I won the gloves, I lost my best friend, like brother, best friend my entire life. That's I dedicate my whole fighting career to. It happened like just 2 months after I won the gloves. And so I had no desire on going any further in boxing, no nothing. And not only did I have no desire, then after accomplishing this, losing any desire to go, not that I lost it, there was no desire, that was the dream. Then I lost my best friend, and it was so tragic. I mean, I'm affected for life from this. I moved home, I was in a shit relationship in the town of Lewiston, Maine, where Muhammad Ali and the Phantom Punch is taken. I was in a shit relationship there, and I was miserable. And after like life got real, then it's easy to cut out bullshit. And I was like, well, I'm going home. I got to be there for my family, his family. And 4 days after carrying him to his final resting site, I got on the phone to a promoter because I was checked out. I was like devastated, beyond devastated. It's hard to even talk about. I won't tell the story much. But 4 days after bringing, carrying him on the rainy day to his grave, I made a call to Matt Pearson from New England Fights. I was like, hey, I want to fight. Because I was so done with life, I was like, well, the only chance of you being happy is you're going for your dream right now, or it's you're done. So anything that I ever dreamt about, I was like, well, I'm going for it full bore right now because I'm checked out. Otherwise, I'm not going to waste any more time in this life. Now I'm going for it all. So I made the phone call literally. Well, most people should take some serious time to mourn and reflect and get through those stages that are serious stages. It's very rare that anyone takes a
You wanted to take a little time to no?
It's rare anyone takes a pro fight during those moments. So what happened was I took something that could have been a really dark time, and I went deep into myself, and I trained like a fucking monster for that fight, and it was powerful because I had given up and like completely given up. And so what happens when you're like you go through like tragic shit? It's hard to feel much other pain. And so when I showed up fight day, I felt no nerves. It was like, this is weird, because I had been a competitor for years. I knew about nerves. I know how to deal with them. Fear exists. You got to deal with it. There was no fear because I had just gone through so much pain. You see me try to talk about it. It's like it's been years. It was like, fuck you. Like if I had got knocked out in that fight, I did not care. I was like, kill me. Hopefully I die. Like that. So when you walk out to a fight like that, you want to talk about having nothing to lose. Nothing to lose is when you're walking out with that. Like some people say, Israel Adesanya, I will die in this. You can kill me, but they don't really. I don't know if they understand the depths of depth. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But when literally, I did not care what happened that night. And I remember showing up to the weigh-ins, and when I faced off, he's like my brother today, with Ras Hilton, and going on to Bellator and had successful career. I remember squaring off with him. I've squared off with a lot of people. And when I was looking at him, it was this different thing. Even he says it was something different because I was like, this is the guy I'm going to kill tomorrow. And it was a cold thing. And then and when I showed up fight day, I had no emotion. I slept the whole ride to the arena. I'd moved into a warehouse that me and my best friend used to do all our projects and big art projects. He used to work with me on them, on these installments, and he had a warehouse that we'd do these in. So I moved in there 6 weeks for this fight and lived on a couch with a refrigerator because I wanted to unpaint that place. I didn't want it tainted. After he passed, the place was kind of eerie, and I was like, no, this was our fun zone, our safe zone. So I lived there for the whole fight. It was ratchet, man. And when I showed up to this thing, it was a different kind of animal. And I had no feeling. When they were like, the fights were going through, people walking out, coming back bloody, I'm talking about like what I ate for dinner or something. I don't even know. I wasn't there. They're like, Sarro, you're up. And this night changed my life forever, though, because I came out numb. I was like, they go, take your time. I was like, all right, I'm going to take my time while my family's there. I'm waving. I was like, I got to appreciate a fight like I got to jump into a movie role. You don't have the stress of the reality of it. You got to like play a role so you don't get hurt in the end. That's literally how fake it felt. I was like, this is cool. I guess I'm not going to have. I was waiting for the wave of stress to come. It never came. I was like, I guess we just go out and have fun. My heart was like this. I walked out because I didn't care what happened. No care. But I didn't know the level of animal I had reached, and I remember waving out. The way this arena was, Cross Insurance Center, you walk through the audience to come up to the cage. So I'm going by guys I've knocked out before. They're now my friends, guys that I bounced with, went to high school with, all my family, Jake's family. I'm walking through them. I took my time, and I walked in that ring, and I knocked Rass out, who had 11 pro fights, and I was bound to lose. I knocked him out with one devastating punch that went viral. And the whole listed line of camera crews at my gym the next day in my life, I got signed to bare knuckle, 3-fight exclusive deal. So that was an unconventional way to get to where I'm at right now. The plan was never to be a world champ. The plan was, how do I get through life right now? And I brutally knocked this guy out where, by society standards, they're like, you have to do this. And I was like, I guess this is what we're doing now.
Yeah, it's an incredible story. I think like there's a few questions off of that I'm interested in. Like, one, I guess to start out, I know you just talked about like the emotionless feeling that you had going into that fight, but in all of your fights, I don't know if each one is very different, but I was curious about like what the energy is that you bring into a fight typically. Like, would you say it's anger? Would you say it's like a pain. Calm? Like, is it?
Learn how to channel my pain, because what I realized, not in my debut, that was a weird one, because I should have been like in therapy, not taking a fight. And so that was a different kind of scenario. That's rare.
Did you feel like a relief after, like emotion after?
But it was very weird because it should have been more elevated. But it was a sense of, I was like, we just did something big. It was big. It was on TMZ and shit. But I was still in this cloud where, like, that night I was like drifted backstage. They handed me my money. I was like, oh, I get paid for this. I forgot I got paid. I wasn't even doing it for money. I was like, oh yeah. And then all the cameras, and I'm going through it, but it was like I was an out of body thing watching, because I was still in this fog, and I knew shit was about to change, and it did. Yeah, it was weird. But no, I don't bring anger into it necessarily. Not in the sense of I come angry, but what I do is I take, because I learned it in my debut for bare knuckle. I had the same out of body thing when it was time for my turn to walk out. Stitch Duran standing at the edge of the ramp, waiting to grease me up, and looking at Stitch, and I didn't let the moment overwhelm me. I think I soaked it in more than ever. I was like, I go in my head, it's all the audience, but I don't hear any of it. It's silence. And I was thinking, who else in the fucking world is doing this right now? The whole world's watching me about to walk out and do some violent shit. I'm getting paid. That's what I was thinking when you see me standing, and I walk out smiling because I'm going, this is fucking awesome. I embraced it like that, and and it was an amazing fight. One punch knockout again. But I realized how rare, like that, this little orb of one moment. Any fighter can relate to this. And bare knuckles, it's so big now when you walk and you realize the whole world's watching. It's this moment that I feel so alive that I don't get any other time in the camp. I have amazing moments. I don't live for that one moment. I appreciate every second of the journey, but in those moments, I realize I'm going to regret if I waste this time. So it's not anger. I learned how to channel all my pain, and I go, okay, take this, bottle it up, and then that one moment,
And is that like exactly kind of how you feel when you're doing like murals and your artwork and your painting, or is that totally separate? Like, how do they tie in with fighting and art?
Yeah, I use the same part of my brain when I'm in the ring and I'm faced with an opponent. He's my canvas, and I'm trying to paint him. Like I'm trying to use my art, so I'm trying to be creative, mixed with violence and intensity and strength and agility and athleticism. It's about I'm using the same part of my brain as if I hold on one second. I use the same part of my brain when I approach a big blank wall. It's a different kind of energy because I'm not having to like risk my life.
Yeah.
Start in the primer. But I'm using the same part of my creative.
But pain, right? I mean, it comes.
It's creative, so I get a rush. When I start throwing down, and God willing, we get this wall, and it looks like I start throwing down this wall, as it starts coming to life, I get this energy that I get when I'm in the ring, and I think, all right, this guy likes to throw straight punches and come forward. I'm going to slip, cut an angle, and catch him with my hook. And when I slip, cut the angle, and the hook lands, the same excited feeling I get when I'm the night before thinking about, I want to put some extra dart behind his fist to make it pop out this 3D, and when I do it the next day and it works even better, like, that worked. It's the same. One, there's just blood and pain, and the other one is oil paint. Did
you have a teacher in the art game, or this is self-taught?
Self-taught, yeah. We got artists in my family, so I think it was a genetic thing. Yeah. I have an uncle that's like an amazing, gifted artist, but couldn't stay out of jail. So I was like, I got to see talent and see what talent wasted looked like, and that's a sour taste. And so never wanted that sense of regret.
Yeah.
So I tried to not let go. It's been a few years. The last mural I did was right before I turned pro, because I go full bore into things. But while my bones are healing, it's perfect timing.
Yeah, great timing. And you're two worlds colliding. You're doing the mural on a boxing gym, historic gym. Yeah. So both of both of your passions coming into one area. But your knockout of to go back to that fight. I know Roz, after that fight, like he went through some, I've read about like some dark times personally. And then you came in and really like helped him out in a lot of ways, and like got him back into the gym, started training with him. Like, what motivated you to, I guess, like have a heart like that and like go reach out to someone that you don't know and someone that you just fought and like took out all that pain on?
There's multiple angles from that. One, and I've talked about this with Ras. I mean, that night was a gift for both of us. Someone always has to win, someone always has to lose. But nothing's bad unless you allow it to be bad. The effects of things. Everything's a lesson. And so that loss grinded his ass enough in whatever way. I can't speak on that. He would, but to get to come back and fight. I forget the guy's name, but it's not relevant because he was an absolute asshole, and Ras TKO'd him in the second round, and it was such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And but he came back with a knockout win, and then the following fight, and then got signed to Bellator, beat Rudy Sefroth, and who was on a 6-fight winning streak, and Bellator was building up, and Ras unanimously beat him on 3-fight notice. He was supposed to be in my corner, so like a lot, like good has come from a loss, and good for me, it launched my career. But to go back, when I called Matt Peterson from New England Fights and said I want to fight, he could have said King Kong. I was going to say yes. It didn't matter the name, but when he said Ras, I definitely said yes, because I was a fan of Ras's. I used to watch all of his fights. I used to keep track of when he had a fight coming up, and I used to I couldn't wait to watch it because he's a phenomenal, like a genetic specimen. He says he's 6'6", but he's like 7'11". I know he is. and he's gifted. He's built like a basketball player, but he's a karate black belt, and he's got he's fully rounded. So I was a fan, and so when they said his name, I was like, my nerves twitching out. When they said his name, I said yes, because I want to kill this guy. I want to hurt him, because I was like, yeah, absolutely, I know Ras, and it was an instant yes. What I did to him in our fight, for him, the idea that he was never going to fight again because of how I knocked him out, devastated me, because I'm a fan of this guy. I didn't want what I did to. Now he stops fighting.
Yeah,
that's the opposite of what I wanted. I'm a fan of his. It never crossed my mind that I was going to go do something, and he wasn't going to want to do his fashion anymore because of what I did to him that crushed me. And so I didn't know how to go about that until his wife had reached out to me and said, "Could you just, message my husband? He's going through a hard time." And they did. Yeah, a lot of this shit taps into weird emotions because it's so real. You can't fake this shit. But he traveled up to our gym, and that's humbling in itself, because no one had ever knocked me out, and I had always thought, what would I do if someone knocked me out, even in a pro fight? And it's like my brain didn't know. It went all kind. I would get back at them. Something I didn't know how I deal with it because I never had. I especially never thought I would be capable of going to that guy's hometown, to his gym where everyone knows who I am. I'm the guy that got knocked out, and go to his coach and humble yourself and then take lesson. And that's a Ronin to me. You know, that's you got the warrior spirit in you when you're capable of doing that. So when I saw that, he drove to my gym and he brought his kids up, and like they all walked into my gym. This guy I did this to, and he's like, I'm here to learn. And they stayed like 4 or 6 hours that day. It was like the whole day they traveled up from Portland. I didn't know if I'd ever be capable of doing something like that. So this guy showed me. You know, I went to Josh Burns in Detroit after losing my first pro loss. Did the same thing because I learned from Ras. You know, like a valuable lesson. Like, no, you can do it and come back and stuff like that. So, it's a long-winded answer, but yeah, it was because I was a fan of his, you know, and I never wanted someone I'm a fan of to retire because of what I did.
Right. Yeah, no, really cool story. And it kind of ties into like what we were just saying with Josh Burns, and like you guys had like a little bit beef beforehand and then big beef, and then like squared it away now, and things seem to be, you know, good.
Brother.
And I think like the fight fans in general like really enjoy seeing that. Yeah. Like especially when guys have beef, they go to war, and then they're both raising each other's hand like after the fight, and they're hugging, and like people like to see that. They like, you know, that storyline.
Right.
And it's something that you've learned from Raz, and then also you know, have done yourself now after a defeat.
Yep.
Life after fighting for you. Are you going to see yourself like in a coaching element or being around the sport and guiding people? Because it seems like the amount of like things you've learned in the gym, it's just like a wealth of knowledge to pass on to the next generation, right?
Absolutely, dude. You got an eye for it. You're in the gym all the time too, so you see and understand it to be able to even make that point. That's just it. Why? Like every person has their reasons, you know, to why when fighting's over, you know what they're going to do. I don't know necessarily because my direct path, because we got offers rolling in right now. I'm just getting started. You know, I look at it. You know,
I didn't mean to.
No, I'm healthy. But to answer your question. I will always be a part of the sport because it saved my life. And so if you save my life, it sucks for you because you're going to be stuck with me for life. In one way, shape, or form, I will always have your back. I have people's backs for way less. You don't have to save my life. You know, but if this sport did so much for me, does so much for me, you can't always compete. That's the nature of life. But to be a part of it, I feel it's like I have no choice in the matter, you know. And for like back home in Maine, where I'm from, to see what it did for kids. Parents would bring their kids to me because they knew my story. They don't understand how fighting did it, but they're like, we remember Chris, and look at them now, like the changes, and they would just bring their kids to me. Good, bad, they're all good kids. There's no bad kid. But any kind of kids that had issues or things that they couldn't solve, instead of bringing them to a doctor, getting them on meds, it's like, God bless them, the ones that thought, oh, just bring him to Chris. He used to be troubled, whatever, and now he's still troubled, but doing a little better. but I will always have to pay back in some way, whether it's managing fighters, not to make a penny, but to show them how to make a living off, because a lot of fighters need guidance.
Yeah.
Just how they don't realize how they could be making a living, you know, like off their name and their platform and stuff. And so to be able to be a good manager or a good coach, a coach that doesn't do it for the dollar, but does it for the community and the good it brings, I'm going to have a play in it some way like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think it's like a great, obviously, thing to do. Someone like you with your experience, but you still got a lot of fighting ahead of you. And maybe you're going to...
I know it's not what...
No, I know, but... and maybe you're going to be... You know, you tell me, I know you still have, I'm sure, maybe fights on the contract. I don't know, you know, how it's set up with the bare knuckle, but you're one of the few guys, I mean, there's not a ton of guys who have done pro boxing, MMA, and bare knuckle. And I was curious about, like, growing up, you play different sports. I'm sure you played there's kind of a different feel to every sport you go into. Yeah. I know it's still fighting at the end of the day, so it's got that fight element.
Right.
But there's always, like, it seems, you know, there's a different flavor, right, to each one.
Absolutely.
In terms of the audience, in terms of the promotion. Yeah. What's your favorite so far? Is it the bare knuckle vibe? Is it the boxing vibe?
100%, 100%. I love it all. But for me, I'm like, I guess like a character flaw in me is like I get it. If something could excite me, jump out of a plane. Woo! The next day I want to jump out of the plane on fire because it wasn't enough. And that's human nature to the fullest with me. And so I love boxing. I love MMA. I love kicking. I love wrestling. I love all martial arts. But when I can feel the breeze on my bones when I'm walking out to do something that's signed a legal document for, I'm getting paid, and I can feel my bones when I'm walking out, it adds this different kind of flavor. You're definitely right. It's a unique flavor, and I like that one in particular. That one gets me. Win or lose, there's just this feeling that I get that I feel so alive. I guess because fighting, I don't fight for the same reason I did when I was 16 or 25. It's different now at 33. I'm a father. It's more sport competition business. I'm not coming to murder per se, but when I'm coming out for bare knuckle, I still get this 16-year-old headed to the parking lot after school feeling that you can't get in the other combat sports. I don't get it, because I wasn't putting gloves on before I walked out to the parking lot. So I get this. It brings up these things that just make me feel young again, I guess. It brings back like this nostalgic street fight feeling,
Yeah.
Go meet Billy at 12 to fucking, And I don't get that when it's gloved.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I feel like your artistic side, the fight side, and a lot of what you've talked about today is all kind of tying back together to like the most raw form of expression, right? It's fighting, it's art.
I look at the whole world as my canvas, and the world is my canvas, and like whether I'm painting it, physically creating art, or physically, expressing art, or expressing it this way, or I look at this like it's one little life we have, a speck of space, a speck of sand. It's like, it's got over like that, and I look at it like my blank canvas. I constantly want to create, new vibes, new energies, new excitements, new adrenaline, and then when it's over, I can lay there and be like, dude, you fucking did it. You did it. No regrets. No regrets.
No regrets. Well, I think that's a perfect spot to end it. You're doing it to the max degree here in fighting and art. So both your passions, you're taking it real far, and the story's still going. So if you want to give a shout out to where they can follow you on Instagram and any of your social media channels, the floor is yours.
Instagram at Chris Golden Gloves, Facebook and Instagram. I don't do Twitter because I'm not political enough. But follow me. I'm constant. I'm not just posting fight and stuff. If you're into the fight world and the art world, I'm always giving behind the scenes scoops on things and showing things from a different angle, my angle, and I like my flavor. And check it out, guys. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
My hand's still crushed, but I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I appreciate you guys taking the time. So, and shout out to Fifth Street Gym and Dino, Noel Guevara with the big win you just had in Germany.
Yep.
This gym's doing big things, man.
Yeah, big things going down here in Miami. So go to YouTube, hit subscribe at the Pod Matrix. Follow me on Instagram, Brooklyn Boxing Podcast. Chris, thanks again. It's awesome. This episode will be out soon. Appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you.
The Pod Matrix.